Do you know these homeschool families? You know, the ones where the kids all sit nicely at the table and everybody works and, they smile and they love school, and the parents are posting pictures on Instagram and on Facebook about their wonderful kids who wrote a novel over the summer. And, everybody is so kind and thoughtful, and someone just went and made a coffee for their mom. It's all so beautiful, and we all aspire to this wonderful myth. And if you have one of these homeschool families, I congratulate you. You're a different kind of person from me. This is not what it looked like when we were homeschooling little people, or especially not by the time we got to middle school and high school age. It is definitely not what it looked like. So in the spirit of being perfectly honest, I'm going to show you a little bit about what our homeschool family looked like. Something more like this, and maybe you can identify with this. So when my kids, they were emotional. We are emotional people. We like to talk about how we feel, and we're very expressive in our house. And it doesn't always come out in nice words, as much as we work towards that and we try to teach that and we try to model that. Very often our feelings come out in all of these ways. They come out in anger, they come out in nasty words, they come out in tears, and our students are no different. So when we give a writing assignment and our student is angry, or they say nasty things, or they start to cry, or they might not even cry at the beginning, they might cry as they're going. They start to work and then they're done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is stupid, right? They say all kinds of things. And our students really are expressing this feeling inside. And, how often do you and I not know why we feel a certain way? It happens all the time, right? I don't know how many, maybe it doesn't happen for you. For me, I catch myself saying things or acting, and I have to think, whoa, back up. What am I feeling? Because that's not my first go-to. I guess in a lot of ways, actually, I just don't follow that pattern. Maybe some of you do follow a pattern where you feel first and then you react, but I usually react and have to go back. But with our students, we are seeing their reactions, and we have to go back and try to discover what's going on inside of them. Why are they reacting the way they're reacting? And there are a lot of reasons why students avoid writing, and it's super complicated. And today I really want to get down to the fear piece, and we're going to get there. But very quickly, I just want to cover, because I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that there are lots and lots of reasons why students avoid writing. It's not just fear, but very often the fear is all wrapped up in these other things as well. So it could be an academic or developmental skill gap. It could be something like learning difference. It could be just an emotional relational skill that they haven't learned yet. And the reality is that writing itself is a multi-skill process. So it's not something that you just do. You can't just flick a switch and write. So it's not one skill that you learn. It's handwriting. So we start at the very top, and we learn handwriting first, and then we have the foundational motor skills that have to go with that, and we have the control, we have the visual perception, we have the sensory processing. So all of those are part of handwriting, just handwriting. So now imagine that we talk about the writing process, and we say, oh, okay, in order to write, students need to be able to come up with an idea. So that's creative thinking. That's one piece of the brain. And they need to be able to put that into a complete sentence. Well, that's something completely different. That takes some skills that have been learned. They need to be able to improve that sentence. That's even more advanced skills. They need spelling. If they're handwriting, they need handwriting skills. So that's an entirely different piece of the brain. It's kind of an art, handwriting. If they're typing, then it comes from a different piece of the brain, and that's a memory piece. So it's a muscle memory. but they also need to be able to put the spelling pieces and the typing pieces and all the pieces together. And we haven't even talked about punctuation, grammar, logic, persuasion, storytelling, any of the other pieces that go with this. So writing is just a huge thing with a lot of pieces. And before you panic that you don't have a curriculum for every one of those, I'm going to say, don't buy a curriculum for every single thing. Don't do it. It's not required. Okay, so that is just marketing. So find the things that are very important to you, focus on those. Find your long-term goals and then work backwards. And then you'll be able to find what you need to work on today to reach your long-term goals. So that's my little aside. That's your little extra nugget for today. Later academic skills. So we have the organization of sentences and paragraphs. We have critical thinking and organizing those kinds of thoughts. And then we have time management. If you assign an essay, this is not something that you can just do in 10 minutes. You don't just sit down and write an essay unless it's well below your skill level. So students have to be able to break it into pieces. They need to be able to know what pieces come first. They need to know the writing process. There's so many pieces in the time management that go along with that. So there are so many skills that are required for writing, and any one of those places could have gaps, even though you've probably taught them. Think of how many times in your life you've learned something and then learned it again and then thought, I think I learned this once. I think I should go and look. And we find out, yes, we did learn it before. So we have to learn and relearn on a circular model. And if we stop learning a skill or stop practicing a skill, eventually our brain just rewrites those pathways for something that we use more regularly. So it's really important, and don't feel guilty or bad if you've taught your student and they still don't know. That's okay. They might have been able to do it last week or last month, but that doesn't mean they can do it today. And that's perfectly normal. That's absolutely normal. So don't think there's something wrong with your student. Now, here we have the emotional piece, okay? So we look at, what do students dislike about writing? So that's the big piece in the middle. And then we have the academic skills. So we have all the academic skills we were talking about. And all of those academic skills really come back to hard work. So I'm going to just put on my pointer. So maybe I hope you can see me a little bit better on the screen. So these academic skills right here that we were talking about, they come back to hard work and perseverance and practice and patience. No one is born loving hard work, right? It is something that we learn to do. It's something that we learn by trial and error, that hard work is necessary. And writing is hard work. There's a lot of pieces. And especially if you have little gaps in these academic skills, then, it's hard work. And students like to avoid hard work. They want it to be fun. And hard work can be fun, but very often, even if it starts fun, in the end, it's work, right? So it's just you might start a job and love it, but eventually it's a job and you just go there every day and you do your job. Even though it's something that you love to do, it becomes a job as well. So then we have the learning gaps piece. So we have handwriting, and that involves hand strength and letter formation and speed. They just all require more hard work, right? And then we have spelling and grammar. Those are some other learning gaps that could be involved in writing. And then we have the emotional side. So these pieces all over here on the right-hand side of the screen, exposure, topic generation, and fear of failure. This is really the emotional side of writing. And the teen years, especially, and my programs focus specifically on middle school, high school, they are emotional years. There's just no way around it. You can't, hormones do crazy things. And so the emotional piece is difficult. It's also an age when students are most concerned about what their peers think of them, and they're starting to look for peer, what is the word? They're looking for their peers to tell them that it's good, right? So they don't want to be ridiculed. Being made fun of or failing in public or being exposed, that's huge. They all of a sudden are shy. I noticed that my daughter used to be able to do all kinds of things in public. And then as she got to be 9, 10 years old, all of a sudden, she didn't want to order at the restaurant anymore because everyone was looking at her. Or, you know, those kinds of things. She's been doing that since she was 3. So it's just part of growing up, recognizing that you have those emotions, you have those feelings. So one of the things with writing is writing really exposes you. And, you know, to be very honest, I have this fear every single time I write. I write for a magazine, I write for copy for an ad, I write for a post on a Facebook or Instagram. Every time I record a reel, I'm exposing myself. I'm putting myself out there for ridicule. I'm putting myself out there, my ideas for people to look at and evaluate. And young people, they don't want to show too much of themselves. Okay, so that's back to this piece, because their privacy is revealed, their private thinking is revealed. And, you know, I all the time have to just say, wait, I can do this. It's okay. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. This is who I am. But, you know, I'm not 15 anymore. And I'm quite a lot older than 15. So, you know, those things are much more difficult for young people. Then we have the topic generation. And this is why sometimes, or very often in my classes, I will assign a topic, because topic generation is so difficult because it exposes them. They don't want to pick something that's too hard, because then they won't be able to do it well. And then they might fail. In their eyes, fail, right? They don't want to pick something too easy, that's childish, that someone might make fun of. But they also don't want to reveal too much about themselves, because maybe that's something personal. So they don't want to make it really anything that they might care too much about, or some students feel that way. So topic generation is difficult because it really puts them out there. The last thing is a fear of failure. And this is the biggest thing. Okay, fear of failure, fear of failing you, fear of not measuring up. What's going to happen when I screw up? I actually had one of my kids tell me, actually they might have both told me at this point, it's easier to not try and fail and say, well, but I didn't try. So if I'd have tried, I would have done fine. Because then somehow they think I will be less disappointed, that somehow if they fail, that makes them a failure. So there's all of this confusion, and they're just not sure, and they're afraid to hurt you, to disappoint you. So fear of failure is such a big thing in writing. Okay, I mean, it's a big thing in every area of academics. It's a huge thing in homeschool. It's a huge thing in life, right? And students really just need to understand that if you didn't fail sometimes, you're not succeeding, right? So we have to fail in order to succeed. We have to push ourselves to a limit where we can fail in order to succeed. So first of all, writing especially is difficult because sometimes the expectations seem subjective. So we're going to talk about that a little bit after, how we can make the expectations not subjective. So they have to know what you want exactly so that they can win the game. This is just like, what do I have to do? Now I can do it. Now I win. Yay, right? They need to know the exact thing that you are looking for, because then they can win. Don't we all want to know that? If you went to a job and the boss said, hey, by Friday, I want you to hand in this paper about this, and but you didn't know exactly what they were looking for, or what requirements it was, or what it was for, or what expectations they had, or how long they wanted it, or whatever, you're kind of going to feel uncomfortable. And students often feel uncomfortable because the expectations might seem clear to us, but until they are very clear to the student, they're just not clear enough. The next thing is often we have this perfectionism that comes up because everything that they read is published for the most part, right? Every book on my shelf, these are all like professional writers. They are all adults. They are all people who have succeeded in their fields. So there's probably lots of writers that never make it and they're just not as good, right? Or whatever makes them not succeed in their field. And students read that and they think, I can't write like that. Well, I guess I'm just not a writer because I can't do that. And when they ask you for help, you know all the answers, hopefully. Or you can tell them what you're looking for, or you can answer questions. Or often, even when we try to help our students improve and we say, well, don't you think you could write this sentence a different way, like maybe like this? Right away, they just feel like they don't know how to write. Now, I'm certainly not advocating that you just let students write however they want. Okay, that is like not where I'm going with this at all. That's not me. There are people who say that. Don't make them feel bad. Just let them write whatever they want. I am not in the don't talk about failure. Don't make them feel bad. No. In the real world, we have expectations and we have to meet up to them. And I want to prepare my students for the real world where there are going to be expectations. They're going to have to work hard. Sometimes they're going to fail. And then they have to figure out how to take those failures and make it into a success. Take those failures and learn about themselves. Learn about how to change it for next time. Learn about how to move forward from there. So that's part of it. They can't compete with the things they read, and they have this sense of perfectionism, and they know they're not perfect. They know they can't do everything perfect. They know that they have spelling errors. And because writing is a process, the first draft they write, what's the first that needs to be done? Fix it. Well, to a student, fix it or improve it often means it's not good enough. So by understanding that writing is a process that we work through and fixing it is just part of that process, that all of the authors on my shelf, they all had to edit their work and then they had professional editors. So that's just a part of what writing is. So those are some things, little tidbits there. So I'm going to skip the learning gaps piece of this presentation so we can shorten it a little bit. Personal development. Students really need confidence. And the best way they can develop confidence, the best way they can overcome a fear of failure and persevere through hard things is to have expectations, to be held accountable, and to be allowed to fail. And I know that sounds like mean and nasty, but it all goes back to imagine what your student is going to be like in the real world. If they're afraid of failing, how are they going to do an interview? If they don't know how to do hard things, how are they going to succeed in life? If they don't know how to take what they believe and express it and put it out there for other people, how can they have an impact? So it's really, really important that we help our students by letting them work through this learning process before it has large consequences. In fact, this process can start in toddlers, right? I was saying the other day to someone, it's like, oh, would you like ice cream? Yes, I want ice cream. Oh, well, are you going to eat your vegetables? No. Oh, well, that's too bad. I guess you don't want ice cream very bad. It's that easy, right? In toddlers, it seems so clear. We can't make excuses. We have to let them fail. If they don't eat the vegetables, they fail. They don't get ice cream. They don't get their goal, their reward. In real life, we have goals. And if we don't have goals, we're not going to succeed. You know, whatever our goals are, we have to be able to work towards them. So having self-confidence and overcoming fear of failure and persevering really all come down to skills that the earlier we can teach our students these skills, the better off they're going to be. And so writing is a beautiful place to teach these skills. Okay, and here's why. This is my other little nugget. Writing's not that hard. Okay, it's not the writing piece that's hard. It's not the learning the structure, you know, that you need an introduction sentence and you need some proof in the middle and you need a conclusion sentence. Those pieces are not hard to learn, right? It's not even super hard to learn how to improve your sentences, to be more logical, to be more persuasive. Those are things we can teach fairly quickly. But this other piece, this success mindset, this confidence, this overcoming fear of failure and persevering through hard things, doing things even when you don't want to, because you have another goal in mind out there. And if you do these things now, you're going to get there. Those things are what really matter. And writing is a beautiful place because they can see wins right away. Super fast, they can see the wins. So I'm going to skip this piece too. Here we go. That seems hopeless. Now what? Okay. First of all, when you have students who are struggling with this, okay, they need clear and measurable expectations. So use a marking rubric. You can start it from their very first sentence that they write. Get them to hand things in. Give them feedback. Give them, you know, whether or not you want to use number grades, whatever. You know, I think in the world we have a lot of places in our lives where we're being graded and assessed, whether it has a number attached to it or not. And I think it's important for students to be assessed so that, not so that they can meet some like, you know, useless criteria, but so that they can understand that there are expectations that they have to live up to. And when they write their very first sentence, you can give them a marking rubric and you can say, okay, and it might be in pictures. If it has a capital, I'm going to be happy or okay or sad, right? So then you can say if it has a capital, if it is a complete sentence, if it has a period, and then they can get 3 happy faces. That's a marking rubric. That's a marking rubric for kindergarten. As they grow and develop, you add to it just a little bit at a time. Every time you teach something, you add it to your marking rubric. So they continue to practice those skills and don't forget them. And so that they can see that they can achieve. Because the larger your marking rubric gets, actually the easier it is to succeed. Okay, because let's look at it this way. If you have a quiz out of 10, so something out of 10 marks, and you get 2 wrong, you get 80%, right? But what if it's about, oh, sorry, let's do some my math. My math is not so good. Okay, you have a quiz out of 10 and you get 1 wrong. So now you have 90%. If that quiz is out of 5 and you get 1 wrong, you have 80%. If that quiz is out of 20 and you get 1 wrong, I don't know. My math is failing me. I should have done the math ahead of time. So the larger the number of points available to a student, the more likely it is for them to get a high mark, right? If it's out of 100 and they get 1 wrong, they get 99%. Now, the larger it gets, you're going to want to change the scale so that the things that they've learned long ago that are easy get lumped together. So you're still looking for them, but so they're worth less marks eventually, right? I mean, how many marks can you have this out of besides who's got time to mark like 500 things, right? So that's one thing. Another thing you can do is offer different methods to write. Do fiction. You know, like fiction skills are beautiful. They teach students to be creative, to write sentences, to be persuasive, to be excellent in their description and in their word choice. If you teach fiction, it's always good to let them like have free reign and write creatively, but then help them to learn the skills after that, to show, don't tell, to create strong, powerful verbs, to create a mood and emotion. Help them to look at how authors do that in the books that they read, and then they'll be able to use the same skills. So you can get creative, and there are lots and lots of ways to help students overcome fear of writing. So right now I'm going to, in the chat, put a link for a free marking rubric outline from my website. So you can go there and you can check out that freebie. And I would love to know whether I have answered your questions. So did I answer what you wanted to know? I think I've answered why students are afraid. And I think that I have answered one of the biggest ways that we can help students to be less afraid. Well, there are two big ways. We can help them be less afraid by teaching them success strategies in their lives, to learn how to be accountable, to delay gratification, to work hard at things. And the second thing is to use marking rubrics. So those are the two best ways that you can most quickly make an impact on your student in their fear of writing. Now, it's going to take a little bit of effort on your part, of course, and it always takes effort on their part. And really, the student has to buy into the process. But when they see that they're not going to be bailed out, they will absolutely buy into the process. So I would love to talk to you more. If there's questions you still have, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to answer them, or you can email me at support@discerntolearn.com. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time.